Very warm welcome to all of you who are joining Youth Employment UK today for our session on the Good Youth Employment Benchmark and how it can support and measure your early careers activities as an employer. We're going to be leading the session with you today. And so we'll get started with a little bit of housekeeping. So the session is being recorded. The slides and recording will be shared with delegates and those that were unable to attend the session later on today. We do ask that you keep your microphones on mute if possible. We've got a great set of colleagues who are available in the chat function. So I encourage you all to introduce yourself, say hi. This is a very friendly social group at Youth Employment UK. So do introduce yourself, where you're from, and if you've got any challenges in accessing the recording or have access needs, please do put that in the chat and our team will pick them up in the interim. So I am one of your hosts today. My name is Laura Jane Rawlings. I'm the Chief Exec here at Youth Employment UK, and I'm joined by my co-host today and right hand, Lauren Mistry, who is the Deputy Chief Exec of Youth Employment UK. So thanks for joining me, Lauren. Welcome.
Hello, everyone, and yeah, hugely welcome here today. Really looking forward to sharing with you all of the great work and support that the Good Youth Employment Benchmark is able to provide employers of all sizes.
So before we get into the benchmark, I thought I'd just provide a little bit of background and context for this piece of work and who Youth Employment UK are. So some of you already partners, members of Youth Employment UK, some of you are new to us. And so just to set out that context, why us and why this benchmark tool. Youth Employment UK are a not-for-profit social enterprise. We were founded back in 2012 when we had 1 million young people who were not in education, employment or training. There is a lot going on, as many of you will know, in the early careers and youth employment space. And the layer that Youth Employment UK bring, and the thing that is most unique to us, is that we are really powered by the needs and the experience as told to us by young people. So as an organisation, the youth voice insight that we have is pretty unparalleled. Young people for the last 12 years have been telling us what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what's holding them back from opportunity as they make their transitions between education and employment. Quite a prudent thing to say, given it's A-level results day and T-level results day, and we will see a range of amazing results for lots and lots and lots of young people across the country, but also we know and we're on hand as an organisation to be supporting those young people that haven't quite got the results that they need and are going to need further transition support. So as an organisation, we are wedded and committed to supporting young people in those transitions between education and employment. We provide lots of support to them, but also then use that knowledge and support that we have and insight that we have to help employers really think about this particular cohort of young people, what their needs are, what their challenges are, and then to help policymakers. So we have amazing relationships with Department for Education, Department for Work and Pensions. We, as a group, were calling for a young person's guarantee, which Labour have put into their manifesto, and is something that we are meeting with teams of policymakers from cross departments to really look at how we can ensure that young people do manage their transitions into a good quality training, education or employment opportunity. So our experience expands all aspects of youth employment. And for 12 years, we've been really looking at what the structural and system issues are that are holding young people back from opportunity. And I think it's important to say, whilst there were 1 million young people not in education, employment or training when we were founded, we are now around 900,000 young people not in education, employment or training. So actually the challenge hasn't really lessened, but the complexity of youth unemployment has really changed. I've seen huge change in the last 12 years. Of course, we've had austerity, we've had a COVID pandemic, we've had a cost of living crisis, we have seen social mobility decrease amongst communities. And so the interplay of all of that really has a bearing on young people's opportunity and their confidence in being able to navigate what comes next for them. So some of the kind of really structural and systemic issues that we know are affecting young people, things are like who they are, their personal characteristics. If you are an ethnic minority, if you are a young person with a disability or special education need, or have a mental health challenge, you are less likely to be able to navigate what comes next as easy as your peers without those characteristics. Where you live, of course, matters to young people. We see a real difference in the level and types of opportunity that are offered around the country, but even at a hyper-local level, some super interesting research by one of our partners, Impetus, identifying that actually even between streets, young people will experience different things in terms of opportunity, access to education, and their kind of mobility around their transitions. So where you live really matters. Of course, your access to education and training, the quality of that, the quality of careers advice and guidance within that system, and the quality of enrichment types of activities really has a bearing on young people and what comes next to them. Sometimes we think young people are not aware of what's going on in the world, but actually we see through the Youth Voice Census every year that what's happening globally matters to young people locally. And so those global issues not only affect young people in their confidence, but they also affect employer appetite for hiring, their confidence in kind of economic development, again, has a bearing on young people and their access to opportunities. And then, of course, in the last 12 years, for any of you who've been working in and around the youth employment space, you will know that we've seen a lot of policy initiatives, we've seen a lot of policymakers, and we've seen a lot of politicians. And all of that plays out in terms of kind of the consistency and the opportunity that is being built out for young people. So there's some of the big structural barriers that we think about in Youth Employment UK. And over the, as I say, our last 12 years, we've been building that expertise. We have been developing our online services for young people with now over 4 million views of our skills and careers content of young people right across the UK accessing our help and our tools and our resources. We have been helping employers to build virtual programs, to develop their early careers programs, and to ensure they're connecting with young people around inspiration and opportunity. As well as helping those employers drive the quality, and quality matters. It's not just about any opportunity anywhere, it's about the right opportunity that's a good quality pathway for a young person too, really important. And our policy world expands between the Youth Employment Group, running the all-party parliamentary group for youth employment, and our own influencing strategy. So as you can see, with our partnerships with the Careers and Enterprise Company, National Citizen Service, Movements Work, Youth Futures Foundation and others, Youth Employment UK really are one of the experts on all aspects of youth employment from start of that journey to the end for our young people. I've touched on some of the resources that we produce, but if you haven't checked out the Youth Employment UK website and what's available to young people on it, and if you've got young people waiting for exam results today or next week, I've got one waiting for next week's GCSE results. Our hub and our online resources are a really great place to signpost young people to, with hundreds of articles on all different aspects, all different pathways, and all different opportunities. It's also a great place for them to build their skills with free career resources and employability courses for them. And the website serves 11 to 30-year-olds and has got everything that they possibly could need in it to support them with their next steps from a digital information perspective. So how do we help employers, which is hopefully why all of you are here, to learn about the benchmark, which Lauren will get into shortly. But it starts with employers becoming members of Youth Employment UK. So we are a membership organisation. We provide membership to employers who want to either develop their youth employment activity or be recognised as being a good youth employer. All of our members get access to our Good Youth Employment Standards badge, so young people can identify you through that badge as an employer committed to the best practice standards when engaging, hiring and supporting young people. We produce a quarterly magazine for our members that's packed with insight, case studies, information and practical guidance on all aspects of recruitment. And then we also help our employers measure that practice with our benchmark tool and access recruitment. So for those members of ours that want to recruit the 4 million young people engaging with our website each year, they're able to do that through us too. So membership is really key to us. As a not-for-profit organisation, our members not only are changing the landscape for young people by becoming better employers for young people, but they are also helping fuel the work that we're able to do in providing young people with free skills and careers content and doing the research that we do here, and of course the influencing that we do. It's a great ecosystem, actually, that employers get to be part of. As I say, they get to use the Good Youth Employment Standards badge. We have a members-only dashboard on our website where members can search for particular articles, how to develop work experience, how to support young people who are neurodiverse. Excellent articles and case studies and tips and resources available for our members through that dashboard. They get the opportunity to complete the benchmark each year, and their benchmark entry becomes their award entry to our annual Good Youth Employer Awards, which happen in December. My favourite party night of the year, if I'm honest. And also members get access to webinars like this, but also webinars talking about all aspects of youth employment. So working with our own in-house expertise or with external partners like the British Association of Supported Employment, or working with our safeguarding partners to talk about how employers can develop better safeguarding for young people in the workplace. We do a number of in-person events each year, and our members get access to that. And for the first time this year, members will be getting exclusive access to analysis from this year's Youth Voice Census results. So that's not to be missed for our members coming up later this month. So there's the kind of things that members get. And as I say, if members want to also use us for recruitment, that comes with an annual administration cost of £500 to upload unlimited amounts of opportunities to our opportunity finder, which young people are looking for. So you can post opportunities which include work experience, training, events, and then apprenticeship, graduate or entry-level roles in unlimited supply to young people from across the UK. So something to look at if you are involved in recruitment within your organisation too. I'm going to hand over to you, Lauren, because this is the golden thread of why everyone's here today. It's to welcome and kind of introduce the Good Youth Employment Benchmark.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining today too. I can see really busy and active chat group across there too. I got a little bit distracted waving at everybody and saying hello. So you're all really welcome. Thank you for joining today to hear more about the Good Youth Employment Benchmark, what it is, what it's done, and how we have got it to this point too. I think it's really interesting that we pick up on that point about the ecosystem. We know as we're looking and have looked for the past 12 years to build good youth employment practice, if there was one single thing we could all do, I know the ambition, the motivation from employers, we would all be doing it already. But the challenges in the systems set out in the way that they are mean that we have to start changing things across every aspect and area for young people too. So we know navigating and transitioning into quality work has always been challenging for young people. We have heard for years that young people have always really struggled to make that next step and connection. And those that do make that next step and connection don't always feel prepared for it. They end up in work that might not be low quality, but might not be what they're looking for. And it can be disparaging, disheartening, and really disconnected from what we hoped young people would go into. The 2023 Youth Voice Census, which launched in September last year, showed us how disconnected young people were feeling from society and their futures. We took a real moment last year to really share the story of how young people felt so disconnected from what was happening to them in and around. They had felt the previous year's challenges and issues. They really felt also that opportunities were really scarce, not just opportunities to work and enjoy themselves, but everything felt like it was in competition with each other, from accessing a doctor's to accessing the mental health support and issues they need. They really did feel like other people were getting more than them, and it was leading to a real sense and lack of social cohesion for young people. young people had missed out on those opportunities to connect with each other and to grow their skills throughout COVID-19, not just in terms of traditional work experience, but in particular socialising. Opportunities since then have really failed to recover, and it's left young people without those pivotal moments to know how to engage and understanding why and what they would get out of it too. There are now less opportunities for young people to access youth clubs, other wider kind of sector opportunities too. This year's Youth Voice Census launches next month, and I was looking at some of the data as we have been as we ready and prepare for that. And again this year, opportunities for young people to engage with anything locally are down. The way that young people make and grow connections, they understand their skills in the context of life and work, aren't there for them to be able to do that. In conjunction with changing work habits, having less access to work experience, and a cost of living crisis, means that around 50% of young people aren't engaging with any extracurricular activities, any moments to build skills, confidence, or make a friend, grow a connection, and build a network too. It's leading young people to feel like they can never catch up with what they've missed in terms of what COVID and mental health crisis, which was pre-COVID but continues and exacerbated by the issues we've seen since then. It's really led them to believe that they'll never catch up with what they've missed in terms of experiences of work and life in and around there. And they continue to see things like education and work disrupted by strikes, but illness, both physical and kind of mental health illnesses as well. Confidence and self-belief for young people is a massive concern. They're really concerned about what the future will be and knowing what it looks like. And I think we can all feel that isn't age dependent. It feels like since the pandemic, every year or kind of every month or every moment, there is another big thing. The news and the situations we feel we are in now are mostly unprecedented, and it's really, really difficult for young people to know what it feels like, and for those around them to really understand what they're preparing them for and what it's going to look like too. What we know is that young people's confidence in being able to access work and access work that's locally to them has always been low. But particularly within the last 2 years of Youth Voice Census data, we've seen that confidence and self-belief. The closer young people get to working age, the less confident they are that they'll be able to access it. They don't feel like they have the skills and experience that employers are looking for. They know they have some skills, they know they are good at some things, but it never quite feels like they can bridge the gap and bridge the connection from what's available to them. Those looking for work are some of the least likely to think they can find a job, but also that they're worthy of a job. They just don't feel like they are a person that an employer is going to want to hire. Now, what's really important is the impact that has. That is true of most young people, but particularly those from marginalised groups. And what the Youth Voice Census allows us to do is to really hear those voices, and they have been fed frequently through the design and delivery of the Good Youth Employment Benchmark too. We are seeing rising NEET figures, growing economic inactivity, and a really worrying sense of where young people are right now. So what can we do? What do they need? This group of employers and any of those listening to this webinar, you're a person that's probably knows and understands that. So what do young people need? Where can we make a difference? What young people really need, what they continue to tell us, is they all need opportunities to build, grow, and understand their skills and interests. They really need those moments early in their career or life and work exploration, but that need to continue once they're in work too. So our delivery and framework for employer activity sits around 3 areas. Explore, which is all activities that will engage and invest in young people at the very start of their careers. A lot of it is around taster days, assemblies, careers work. A lot of it will focus on partnerships with schools, but actually much wider than that too. The youth organisations you might partner with. Explore isn't just about the very young people in our audience, but it is about those who will have had no experience. It's that very first taste. And you might be 21 and have never engaged with an employer before. It is about those kind of nice introductory ways to start exploring what an employer does, who they are, and what the world of work might look like. We then look towards experience, which are meaningful workplace experience that supports skills building and professional development. They do include work shadowing, short placements, they include T-level industry placements, but they also include short 1 and 2 day work experience placements, which we're starting to see more of, or that traditional 2-week work experience that we might all recognise and remember too. And then we look to employment, those early career opportunities that help young people into their first jobs or their first careers for some of those young people too. And it looks at the ways that we can retain those young talent too, not just those ways that we can offer employment and training pathways for young people that are of good standards, but the training plans, support, mentorship, and fair opportunities to grow and develop once young people are in work too. So all of our work, all of our membership, our content is designed around those 3 areas. We have consistent kind of case studies, support in how you can build all of those skills. But what we knew we needed to do was be able to build a tool that employers would be able to monitor and measure where they're at right now, and be able to understand the small and marginal gains they can make, but also understand where they are doing something brilliantly, when they are setting a standard that other employers could follow, and that they can champion and share with young people that they do this brilliant thing. We have always had a way of supporting employers to be able to monitor and measure. For any of those that have known Youth Employment UK for a long time, you may have signed charters or standards and other activities before. The benchmark is different. The last 12 years of insight and intelligence that we have from young people from all different backgrounds, from all different areas, but also from the work that we have continued to do with employers and across policy, has been able to support the build of a tool that captures all of that together in one place. We have evolved all of that work, but the core principles remain, that those young people, and particularly those from marginalised groups, are really at the heart of the practices, really central to what we've built. So the tool itself that we will get to go through in a second, it is available exclusively to members, but it is set out to not just monitor and measure your best practice, but also to bridge that practice gap, give you practical tools, practical steps that you can do to make small changes and build year on year on your good youth employment practice. It also builds an evidence base to look at, as whole sectors, whole regions of the UK, and across all different types of delivery, from apprenticeships to graduate schemes, from work experience, to see what employers are really doing across the space, to see who they're targeting it to, how it's working, what evidence and evaluation we can see, so we can understand where there are gaps, what doesn't work, but most importantly, what really does work. It's a really positive tool to tailor content based on your organisational needs, but to support the wider ecosystem of good youth employment practice, but most importantly, deliver good work and good opportunities to young people all across the UK. The work and the project is built on the knowledge and experience we have. We've worked with Goldsmiths University of London to highlight the sustainability and effectiveness of driving change through youth-led practices. We also worked with the Institute of Employment Studies to validate the evidence base, to look across frameworks, initiatives, and charters that have been and come before, and to look, one, that this sort of practice is needed, and the research shows that it is. There isn't a tool that is setting this national standard in the same way. There isn't a tool fed into the groups that is fed into by the amount of young people with all of the different needs that we're able to support that is bringing this together at this national level. So it's really important to us that we have gone out and supported Youth Voice, but also gone out and base this all across robust research and kind of systematic data collection that we're looking to build too. It's been built with the support of a strategic steering group that includes the Careers and Enterprise Company, Coca-Cola and WMCA too, and a set of national roundtables. We have been really excited by the uptake, the excitement that employers have to really making a difference to what young people experience in their first stages of their careers. And it wouldn't be possible without the help and support of employers who have taken part in our benchmark, in our pilot benchmark, and who have really been able to support the work too. It also wouldn't be possible without the support from the Youth Futures Foundation, who have been really valuable in bringing us to where we are now too. Across last summer, we worked with a group of employers to understand not just what we could learn and what we could benchmark from employers, but we also used them as our guinea pigs to go in and fill out and utilize some of the tools and some of the user testing too. So we worked with a range of employers from across the UK and from across a number of sizes, and we went out and really tried to understand where we could make the best difference in terms of good youth employment practice. With 4 key things stood out across employers of all sizes, running all different types of activities, working across all different sectors too. What was really clear to us was that employers are really realistic about needing to engage with young people. They have always been enthusiastic and ambitious to expand and improve, but the realism is there isn't a sector or group that doesn't have an issue with engaging young people in their workspace. There isn't a sector that won't face an aging workforce in the future, but actually the excitement and appetite for doing more was there from all employers. They were all doing something. They had some level of involvement of activities across all of our stages, explore, experience and employment. All had started a journey and they were starting to see the benefit of it too. But what they wanted and needed most, they lacked kind of clear time-bound strategies. In fact, only 15% of employers had any youth employment strategy at all. They were all responding and reacting to different moments, to different needs across different regions, and they'd found themselves in a place now. They had little different bits and pieces going across their organisation. And what we know is that creating good quality opportunities requires that time, investment and staff capacity, especially in the early stages. Without this, those employers often found it felt really impossible to be anything other than reactive, and it could often lead to duplication, frustration or missed opportunities too. So that well-defined youth employment strategy is crucial. It is why the Good Youth Employment benchmark exists. It is a tool that will help and guide. The very first pieces of content for employers will be around considering and building youth employment strategies that sit in line with your other business objectives too. Whilst most organisations wish they had started with them, actually the opportunity to have Youth Employment UK and our tools and resources be there to help support and develop one was one of the biggest outputs we're able to find too. In terms of connecting networks, employers were most commonly utilising mediators and established networks, such as schools, careers hubs and activity providers to connect with young people. Where employers were doing something, they tended to be doing it with young people aged 13 to 19 in those key kind of year groups of years 10 to 13. They were becoming more confident than ever before about engaging with schools, engaging with those traditional networks, but actually where we were able to support, where we were able to see that our content and guidance across our membership was able to come in, was to be able to think about how those organisations could support young people who were NEET, or those young people are a high risk of becoming NEET too. Anyone outside of education, employers found much more difficult to reach and understand how they could effectively target them. Of course, once you step outside of being able to contact a whole school in one moment, you are then reliant on much more kind of small targeted groups to be able to do, and employers are really keen to have help and support to be able to do that. And less than half had engaged with parents in the last 12 months. All employers were really looking to commit to the future. They all had tried to remain flexible. They were value hybrid models, particularly around work experience, have been able to have young people support young people virtually, but they were finding it increasingly challenging to understand how they could provide good quality work experience and good connections with young people for their future talent pipeline in this world post-COVID-19, where perhaps all of staff weren't in the office, and resources and line managers, etc., weren't always available to be able to do it. So whilst a lot of employers, around half of those participating, were offering work experience, it was typically to between 1 and 49 young people throughout a whole year. And it tended to be between a 1 and 3 day experience too. So employers are really keen to understand how they could benefit from kind of participating in bigger schemes, having bigger access, and how they could prepare, give feedback, and reduce anxiety for young people too. And then finally, in terms of what the pilot told us, most of the organisations we were working with had really understood the work and support Youth Employment UK had been able to give around encouraging youth voice. Over half the organisations were seeking feedback from young people across all of the programmes across Explore, Experience and Employment that they run. They were able and ready to engage and kind of have that youth participation in it, but they really wanted help and support to enhance that evaluation. They really wanted to improve how things could be measured and monitored in a clear way that showed ROI across the business, and just being able to go back again and think about how we could support in terms of robust evaluation and impact measurement strategies too. So overall, we found a real kind of keenness to do more and to understand more, but most of the organisations were a critical mass without now kind of going and thinking again, without having a tool like the benchmark that goes, okay, you are doing this brilliantly, doing 2 more things here across your work experience programme would really make a difference. This thing that you're not doing well, which might be your apprenticeship programme, here is how you could invest, a chain or a kind of a moment in time to really affect change across that work too, and continue to build evidence. Employers are really keen to be part of an evidence base, to really understand how good youth employment practice makes a difference too. So that's what the pilot told us. What we did as part of these pilot findings was then make a raft of kind of changes and adaptations to what the Good Youth Employment Benchmark does and is. So on the next slide, we'll be able to show you what it looks like. So members of Youth Employment UK have access to a dashboard. This dashboard is available to access for up to 5 employees of your organisation. You go onto the benchmark, tell us about your organisation, and you will only fill in sections of the Good Youth Employment Benchmark if you undertake that activity. So you'll tell us the name of your organisation and you'll tell us what you do. If you don't run job shadowing, or if you don't run short work experience placements, you won't have to answer those questions. You won't, in fact, ever see any questions about that ever again. We will look and capture the data of the activity you have done across the last 12 months, and we'll be able to show where you are for an organisation of your size and your experience. We, of course, use technology, and we have the ability to be able to make all of the data make sense to us, but all of the applications for the Good Youth Employment Benchmark are sense checked and understood by our research team here too. We understand and anticipate that organisations of certain sizes in certain sectors running a certain way will be different. It isn't a one size fits all, but what we are able to do is to use big technology to be able to tell us roughly where it should be, but actually look at that human approach to be able to understand what is going to make a difference to your organisation and the groups of young people that you will be able to support too. So that is how it is and works in terms of being able to fill it in. What then comes out of it, that moment in terms of being able to fill in questions and the set, gives us the access and the insight for us to be able to pull together for you a full report that your organisation can utilise and use. You will see where you are against it. And as we start to build the evidence base, we'll be able to tell you where your kind of how you perform for your sector or for other organisations within your region too. The 4 kind of categories or components are split into creating, connecting, committing and championing. So for each part of the Good Youth Employment Benchmark, you will be on one part of that journey, and it's and we will be looking at how we can make those marginal gains to shift that dial, not just for you, but for the young people that you are hoping to attract into the workplace as well. So each question has a score and a question set, and we'll utilize that benchmarking approach to gather that information and set of activities to understand where you are and recognize you for it too. The Good Youth Employment benchmark is open until the 29th of September for completion. If you'd like to be included in the 2024 data set, you'll need to complete it by the 29th of September. We have good feedback in terms of how the tool works, how you can kind of how much more easily accessible it is than perhaps it has been in the past to be able to measure some of these activities. So I think you're looking at around an hour to an hour and a half to be able to complete it. But what it does mean is being able to sign up to Youth Employment UK, being able to join the membership and allowing us to support you. We are, as a team, running book a benchmark sessions at the moment too, where one of our senior team will be able to work with you to complete the benchmark within an hour session and process as well. We are really keen to involve as many employers as possible in this stage of the completion of the Good Youth Employment Benchmark.
Amazing. Thanks, Lauren. I'll let you take a breath and a pause for a second there. I think one of the things that really strikes us about the benchmark tool is, one is the level of detail that our members will get in, as Lauren says, being able to identify where they're at and what more can be done. And our community of membership will build and build on that every year. But also where I think it's a really interesting tie-in to some of the kind of national work that's happening is ESG is becoming, of course, more and more important to so many people, and so many organizations can be looking at how they measure the social element of what they're doing around ESG, and engaging in communities and supporting the youth employment agenda is a really big part for so many employers as part of their offering. And the benchmark, because of the data and the analysis that sits behind it, will offer those organisations who are thinking about their ESG reporting a really complementary report that can be utilised in any kind of publication of ESG activity. And then you can imagine that you get your scoring and your data report in 2024 and work with us across the next year to access advice and guidance on shifting the dial. And in your following year's report in 2025, 2026, you'll be able to demonstrate actually the distance you are travelling as an organisation and grow in that confidence of knowing that actually you're developing a really robust quality programme as part of your ESG commitment. And to us too, it's about making sure then there are more and more employers offering really great opportunities to those young people, particularly those most marginalised young people who need our employers to understand them better and understand how to bring them into their organisations better. And this will be the tool that will help you and your broader colleagues across your businesses be able to do that. So I'm super excited by the potential of the benchmark and all it can do for our members. So yeah, really, really great opportunity to share that with you today. We've got a little time now, and I know there's been some questions in the chat function. So we will take a few questions just as you're thinking about them. If you can put your hands up, we'll come to you if you have them. I'll pick out one or two questions I've seen in the chat function. But we should, just before we let you leave, for those of you that are running for a cheese sandwich or whatever it is, the token on a Thursday lunchtime. Next month, as Lauren says, we will be launching the 2024 Youth Voice Census findings. Could not be a more important year from all the things that we've seen already in 2024 to make sure that we are listening to young people across our communities. So we will have our members only event on the 11th. But on the 18th, we will publish the national report. If you are not a member, you will be able to download that report as of the 18th. And there'll be some online webinars that people will be able to join after the 18th to learn about the Youth Voice Census results this year. We also, as I say, my favourite event of the year is our Good Youth Employment Symposium and Awards. So if you are a member, that's a free entry into our symposium, our day conference and awards, and that is being held on the 3rd of December in Birmingham. So make sure it's in your diary, because that's when the Christmas parties start, as far as I'm concerned. So one of the questions that I'll start with that I picked up on was the link between the benchmark and the Careers and Enterprise Company's employer standards, which is a question, the most asked question, I think, and rightly so, because it's a sense check that needs to happen.
Absolutely. So yes, we worked extensively with the Careers and Enterprise Company as we have built this tool. They were part of the strategic steering group that we had formed part of it too. I can see that Georgia has picked up part of this conversation as well. So the Good Youth Employment, the employer standards that the Careers and Enterprise Company work across, which are brilliant and fantastic. I really love that work too. Cover some of the aspects of explore and experience, and they cover the work that an employer might be engaging, particularly from a school perspective. So there are some questions that overlap, and we have built any questions that overlap to be exactly the same. So in theory, you can download some of your data set if you've already filled in the Careers and Enterprise Company one and upload it into ours, but you'll also know if you've gone out to collect that data, be able to input it carefully too. We are also working with the Careers and Enterprise Company to make sure that the links and kind of evaluation moments are there and in place too. So they are certainly complementary of each other in all of the ways that they need to be. And we continue to work with each other to make sure that's the case, that you are getting good value from doing both. It is to us really clear in terms of how they are different, particularly as we've seen from a lot of employers, actually their struggles are outside that education environment, and it is about how they enhance some of those kind of community networks and community support groups too. So yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. And hi, AJ. Great to have you join us today. AJ is asking whether or not we are working on a social value calculator as part of the benchmark. We absolutely are talking to two potential partners to help us do that. So yes, it is probably a 2025 iteration, but actually I think the reporting tool that's already there will allow social value managers, the ESG leads, CSR leads to be able to do qualitative reporting based on what they already get. But we are looking at that kind of social value calculator with a couple of partners. So watch the space for that in the future. Great stuff. They were the two questions that I'd picked up. And just wondering if there's anyone else with a hand up. I can't see that there is. I'm going to give you all 1 more minute. Oh, excellent. Okay, well, there's another one in the chat function. Good. No, then in that case, look at that. We are going to give you 50 minutes. I understand this is a golden time. If any webinar finishes early, it means people can grab some time to get a cup of tea and the cheese sandwich, which is where I'm going. So let us finish with sharing our contact details and information. Should you need anything further from us, if you are not yet a member and want to become, Laura and Destiny have been on hand in the chat function and they will be reaching out to colleagues. If you need any more information about what you've seen today, as I say, we'll be sharing the slide deck and the webinar, but also, of course, on our website, you can look up and find information about the Good Youth Employment Benchmark at any time too. So do reach out to us, do connect to us, and we will wish you a very happy Thursday afternoon, and we'll see you all again very soon. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.